Thank you very much for inviting me to join your deliberations. I believe that they're very important. I think the Oasis Plan presents a set of very useful proposals that could be looked at by groupings that are in contention as the basis for further discussion. From our own experience as South Africa, having agreed 30 years ago that we would enter into negotiations with those who had oppressed us for many, many decades, we know that once you get around the table, it is the former oppressed who must determine what future they would like to see. And so it is very important that we never make assumptions on behalf of those who are experiencing harm. And we need to find ways of getting their views on the table in order to ensure that whatever outcome is arrived at is one that has the legitimacy of the support of the formerly oppressed. So while I fundamentally agree that a core part of what needs to be addressed as we go into the future is the matter of the reconstruction of the territory in which the people of Palestine reside, I believe imperative is to engage the Palestinian people, their leadership, their civil society, and to ask them, how do you see the future? And of course, the enemy, in quotes, as we used to call our oppressor, that they need to speak to is the people, and particularly the government of Israel, as well as the allies who have supported Israel so vigorously in its oppression of the Palestinian people. So we have to look at a means through the International Peace Coalition, a means of drawing these groupings together and actually having them give us a sense of what kind of future do they imagine. And I wish to indicate that if that future includes continued denial of human rights, continued denial of freedom, disrespect for sovereignty, that is no basis for a political settlement. So there are certain, I think, key agreements that just need to be an accepted base. I welcome the notion of a two-state solution. It has been the position which we have all supported, the majority of us, in the General Assembly, in the United Nations. But the two-state solution, as we imagined it when the resolution was first adopted, the territory has fundamentally altered from what existed at that time. The increased number of settlements by Israelis has made it improbable that you could have a sovereign territory of Palestine. That can only be achieved if there is agreement that there would be resettlement on other land of those persons who have occupied Palestinian territory. And you have seen in the past a year and a half of conflict against Gaza that the temperatures are so high, the levels of hostility, even between ordinary civilians, are of such an extreme character that it is going to be very, very difficult to get a discussion, rational, very carefully constructed discussion underway. The settler community have even gone so far as to attack humanitarian aid trucks to kill Palestinian civilians. So it's gone well beyond the former armed forces of Israel. In addition, Hamas and the other groupings within Palestine must accept that a settlement has to be found between the two, and that you're not going to destroy one or the other. And so I think the international peace processes could begin to establish coalitions through a number of key conversations. The first would be to test the probability of an engagement between Israelis and Palestinians. We need to understand, are the Palestinians ready to sit around a table that would include representatives of Israel? Similarly, are Israelis ready in similar fashion to sit around the table? What would be the key issues that would be brought to that table? And who might be the honest interlocutors who would be trusted to facilitate a very complex process of this kind? So I believe a great deal of work needs to be done. I also think we're in a very dangerous time because we are speaking through headlines rather than through rationality. So we need leadership. We need to find a way through the Schiller Institute of identifying who are the adults in the room, who can actually live without being on a headline every day, who is ready to engage in a serious fashion to actually settle the matters of the world. It's not going to do the globe good to have America and China at each other's throats on the trade agreements. This harms our smaller economies and doesn't do the world good at all. So we need adults, we need leaders, and I haven't as yet really been able to identify who are the leaders. So I believe that the Schiller Institute, along with other organizations of similar strength, could begin to assume that leadership role primarily for purposes of convening, of initiating conversation, and developing an agenda. I believe there are leaders of the South who could play a role. You know that South Africa has been one of the subjects of a recent executive order of the President of the United States of America. We believe there's been a great deal of misrepresentation of our policy and our policy intentions, and even those people that President Trump has offered refuge in America have said that they have no wish to leave their country, South Africa. So clearly there's misinformation out there, and this executive order was signed without proper research, without consultation with the government of South Africa, and has really put us in a very negative light unnecessarily. Hence, I return to my view that what we need are adults in the room. And perhaps the International Peace Coalition could begin a series of meetings with distinct groupings with the intention of arriving at that larger global consultation where we then could begin to develop an agenda that allows us to address those key problematique that are affecting the globe and causing the disarray that we witness at present. As we speak of the Middle East, we must also recall the Sahel in Africa. We should have reference to Sudan, that is under great stress, as well as very poor African countries that are bearing a significant burden of refugees and displaced persons without much world attention or commentary on their plight. So there's a great deal for us to do. And I look forward to the International Peace Coalition identifying these people I call adults and persuading them along with other organizations. So the first step is let us establish a global peace coalition. And then working through that, let us be more ambitious until we arrive at a point where one of the critical issues we wish to address, which I believe as first prize is the Middle East conflict, really gets focused attention, and we attempt through various resources to arrive at a solution. I would want to see the United Nations also involved. I believe in the last few years, there's been a genuine and rather malicious attempt to diminish the status of the United Nations as the premier multilateral institution. And so I believe in whatever we do, we shouldn't be seen to be affirming that intention, but should allow the UN, which is our global body, to actually take its place in supporting the resolution of global conundrums. So I will pause at that point. Let me conclude by saying, while I agree that this moment offers an opportunity for the South to come into its own, the South is not a coherent, coordinated political formation. Even within BRICS, there are different philosophical orientations, different economic strengths. So while there are shared perspectives and objectives, it is difficult and perhaps not helpful to imagine the South as a coordinated, coherent political formation. But it is a useful rubric that we could draw on. Thank you very much. I hope I've made some sense. Thank you.